So, to what extent do movies and TV shows boost tourism? To answer that, I'm joined by Kevin Klowden, managing economist at the Milken Institute and an author who has written extensively on the economic effects of the entertainment industry. Kevin, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Kevin, as we saw in Lauder's report, Northern Ireland has seen a tourism boost since the Game of Thrones TV show. New Zealand has had a huge boost to its tourism sector since The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. How much of this is attributable to films or TV shows, or would these destinations be appealing to tourists anyway?
It's a combination of both of them. The fact is that the filming is taking place because the location's already appealing. That's what brought a lot of the location scouts, the producers, the directors, and helped convince them that they wanted to film in those locations. But it's the film and the TV shows that lets millions of people who would never otherwise know about them be able to see them and be drawn to these locations.
Well, HBO considered 14 different countries before choosing Northern Ireland as the principal filming location for Game of Thrones, and it's done wonders for the country. So how do countries or locations go about trying to recruit production studios to use them? Is it mostly tax incentives?
Well, tax incentives are the first. That's the first phase that companies look at because, of course, they're trying to control costs and look at the bottom line. In Britain, or the United Kingdom rather, and that includes Northern Ireland, has a very strong tax incentive. But the fact is that it's also the overall cost of filming in a location. And then there are two other key issues. One is that there really needs to be locations themselves, physical locations that appeal to the crews that are filming there. And the people also matter. You need to have quality individuals who can work on the productions, and you need to have people who are representing the government or local agencies who are amenable to filming and are willing to work with these international companies to help them film there.
And of course, this benefits the film studios as well. They have a quid pro quo relationship that they're looking for these incentives. And how do those films then go and try and find those locations?
Well, what you have is that studios initially are going out and they're trying to get the best deal they can from different countries, from different states and provinces within the US and Canada. And they're making a point of trying to sell the film industry and the benefits of filming to those locations. But a lot of it also is if you have a production such as Game of Thrones, where they're looking for a very specific kind of look, then that cuts down the number of available locations. They need somewhere with castles and history, such as Ireland.
Kevin, if you go online, there are dozens of Game of Thrones experience tours. They're promising the full immersive experience. Some include wearing costumes, wielding shields. Is there a case of copyright infringement? Does all of this have to be done in cooperation with the studios?
Well, it doesn't hurt. And if you want to have full access to the different locations and you want to have the ability to talk about the different points of filming, the more information, the better, and the better experience you can offer. So working with the studios does help. But in a lot of cases, the studios are willing to look a little bit away at a number of these tours as long as they're not blatantly using the imagery of the show in their production material.
But can anyone come and say, I'm offering you the Hobbit experience, the Game of Thrones experience, without the studios feeling that it's infringing on their intellectual property?
Well, that probably is going to infringe on their property, but if you're a studio and you want to encourage the people who buy your merchandise and your DVDs, you want to reach an accommodation with these tour companies if you can.
All right, beyond Hobbit and Game of Thrones, we've talked about them extensively. What are some of the other examples of successful films really bringing a light to a destination that otherwise would be off the radar?
Well, there are numerous different productions. Hawaii in particular has done a wonderful job whenever it has a production, such as Jurassic Park and bits of Jurassic World, or the TV show Hawaii Five-0. They know that it promotes tourism there. With the Hunger Games, when they filmed in different locations in Georgia, George has made a big point of promoting the fact that this very successful franchise takes place there. And my favorite example,
No, carry on.
My favorite example is always Roman Holiday in Italy, where decades after this movie was filmed there, tours were still making a point of bringing up its locations.
So what makes a movie like Roman Holiday so successful and so likely to boost tourism in the long run? Is there a recipe for a sustainable film that's going to be a location booster?
There's no given recipe. All you need is something that resonates with an audience, that it builds a loyal following. You're not going to know that immediately. You're certainly not going to know that when you're okaying a decision for a movie to be there. But you can get a sense of that within a year or two. And with a TV show like Game of Thrones, you have several years to see people's anticipation and desire build up, and that is reflected in the tourism numbers.
All right. Thank you so much, Kevin Klowden, author and managing economist at the Milken Institute.